I'm Julia Hartman from the Bantax National Accountants Group, and tonight I'm coming to you from Paroy. This is Craig McGregor's property, and he has 11 acres here. Yeah. And this is Sarah McGregor. Hi Sarah. As you can see, it's beautiful out there, but that's not his property. It's down there. With Craig, he's got 11 acres, and as you know, the main residence exemption will only cover 5 acres. So he's got 6 acres that capital gains tax is ticking away on, and there's a couple of ways you can avoid this, and one of them is by using the rest of the property as a place of business. Because if you use it as a place of business for 7.5 years, as an active asset in the business for 7.5 years, or at least half the time you own the property, then you're entitled to the small business concessions at capital gains tax, which could reduce it down to 0 anyway. Still, you need to keep records, don't go thinking it's exempt, but that's one of the ways of avoiding it. Another way of avoiding capital gains tax is by how you apportion the property. So some of the property might be flood prone or something like that, so you think that area of the property was always worth nothing when I bought it, that's worth nothing when I sell it, that's where my 6 acres is, and you get a valuer to verify that for you. Now with Craig, he's running cattle, and I'd like to share with you some of the beautiful cattle he's got here and some of the views of the property. Okay, Craig's just thrown some hay out for the cows so that we can see him a bit up close there. They were quite excited when that happened, a lot of noise and a lot of running. Now, obviously 6 acres, I was told something like you've got to have 2 acres per cow or something.
Look, Julia, it depends on between 2 or 3 acres of cow, depending on the country. So we're pretty lucky here because we get good regular rainfall through the year. Right now on this particular block, we're running 6 heifers with the intention of breeding. So, and this year we're lucky we've got 2 young calves. So we've just had our first offspring, so we're all pretty excited. Particularly Sarah is beside herself with excitement.
So what Craig has to do is adjust his cattle on other properties as well to get a decent amount of herd to be, a decent sized herd to be considered in business.
Yeah, look Julia, overall we're running on 3 properties, so we're actually running 20 head. They're all females, so we're hoping that each year we'll start turning over at this stage. Unless we can get more land, we're hoping we'll get 20 offspring. So the younger ones that we've got here, we've got a few younger ones here, these 3 here actually, and we'll start showing them the ball around about April, May.
So for capital gains tax purposes, all I'm concerned about is that 6 acres of this property is used in the business. It's an active asset in the business, even though the farming property is much larger than that really. So another thing I'm interested in, Craig, is looking at all the hills you've got here in the background. 11 acres, is it the footprint, or is it that you, like obviously you've got more than 11 acres when you're taking the hill
Julia,
area.
all land is always surveyed on the flat, so you assume that everything's tabletop flatness. So by having hills, we get an extra bonus, and that is that we get more land. So if you had 11 acres with a mountain in the middle of it, you'd be very, very lucky. So probably overall we can run more than that general equation of 2 or 3 to 1. 2 or 3 animals to 1 acre, simply because of the slopeness of the land.
Okay, so when we're looking also, well you can use the slope anyway, because I was thinking, we haven't got any flood prone land here that we could say is worthless, but obviously the hill is worth something. Okay, so what I'm thinking about now is not so much using it in a business, because that's one side of it, but if you don't use it in a business, then you want to say there's as little value of the selling price on the 6 acres that you're exposing, or the 6 acres that you're exposing to capital gains tax has got a high cost base. Now, you're allowed to pick which square metre you expose to capital gains tax, and other than the land under the house has to have your main residence exemption, but other than that you choose where the main residence exemption goes on a square metre basis if you really wanted to break it down that way. So what you'd be looking for in these circumstances is somewhere where there's been a fair bit of capital improvement, which I think we've got over here, haven't we, Craig? Is it going?
There we go. And hopefully there's our dam over there, Julia, and our new water infrastructure that we've put in to service the cattle with troughs. And I'm hoping you're going to scan around the other way, Julia, and show my new fantastic cattle yards and loading ramp.
So these, Craig, are your new mobile cattle yard, is it?
This is my mobile cattle yard. You saw our beautiful first offspring, which is Uno for number 1. And this lovely one here is actually Sarah's cow. So she's decided she wants to get into the cattle business.
And all I've got is the rear ends because the dogs are here.
That's the important end, Julia.
There we go, and a beautiful bit of sun setting in the background there. But still, they're turning their backs to me. I'll give up on that one.
Yeah. Come on. There's a little truffle. Hey, here. Here you go.
Oh, isn't she cute? So you can see here we've got Craig's portable fencing, and that now with the new concessions for the 2017 year and going forward, well, it's actually since the 12th of May 2016, if you buy fences and you're in primary production, you get an immediate write-off for them, which is huge, as you can imagine. So if you've got if you can get it, that this is not an uncommercial business, that the business is commercial, you can do a business plan to show that it is going to be profitable one day, then you can deduct effectively the cost of this fencing against your other income. So if you've made a capital gain maybe on some other asset and you buy fencing that year, it could be a very good tax strategy. Now, going away from the small business side of things and looking at the situation where you've just had the property for private purposes, no business on it, you'd be looking at dissecting up where you're exposed to capital gains tax. So obviously the house up there on the hill, the land underneath that needs to be, you can't see it very well, can you? The land under that needs to be, get the main residence exemption. But other than that, the rest of the, say, 4.5 acres or whatever, or even more than that, you can pick per square metre if you want, where to expose it. So you might have over here where he's spent a lot of money on a dam and stuff like that, you might say, well, this little patch here is going to be exposed to capital gains tax because it's got a high cost base. But that hill up there, the valuer tells me that because it's got such great views, that little bit up there has a far greater portion of the selling price attributed to that than lower down. So I'll say that's also covered by my main residence exemption. So you just scatter your 5 acres around as it suits with the help of a diligent valuer. And it's worth it. I know it's a lot of work, but it is worth it. Now obviously, back to the issue of small business, you can't say that it was an active asset in a business if you're using it for private purposes. So you need to think this through. You need to keep records all the time you own it, and you need to think about the things you do as the years go by as to how to take it to the most advantage. I hope you've enjoyed the scenery, and hope you save tax. See you next week.